Oh, it's a beautiful scenery here. Just hang on a second, trying to put that mic. Okay, and I'm on. Right, hi everyone. In that darkness, I cannot really see you, but it's beautiful. So, slides. Thank you for the intro. I'm not going to talk a lot about my work, but today I'm going to talk about networking and how I came from nowhere to somewhere. And do you know that annoying somebody that half as talented as you are, but does all those incredible things that you always dreamed of doing? You watch them and you think, how? You are more skilled, you work harder, and perhaps you even deserve it more. But they are in the room and you are still outside the door. As creatives, we are raised to believe that great work speaks for itself, but it doesn't. The truth is, talent doesn't open the doors. People do. We want to get to create at the highest level, not always are the most talented, but we are definitely the most connected, and I can vouch for it. My story began at a nursing home. 20 years ago, I came to UK. I'm from Lithuania and from the very, very small village. And 20 years ago, I came to UK and I worked in nursing home wiping bums, barely speaking English. I still barely speak it now. But fast forward, in the last decade, I stepped into rooms that most people will never see. And I'm a go-to artist when it comes to cover stories. I work a lot with very, very powerful, influential people around the world. I meet people like prime ministers and so on, Hollywood stars. I even had a dinner with Samuel Jackson. Again, I travel a lot on the projects, incredible projects like this one, for example, the women deminers in Iraq who were clearing the bombs after ISIS and telling their stories. And other brands as well. But I'm sharing those things not to impress you, but to say that from nursing home, from zero contacts in England, I ended up doing all those things thanks to connections, thanks to all the networking I've been doing over the years. So now I am working on a personal global project with all prime ministers and presidents, female, because access to those people, access to those women, is the Everest of a networking, and I wanted to climb that. Now you will all have different Everests to climb. But the principle of building real connections, it's the same. And if you don't want to make mistakes I made, let's talk about what works. So in 2015, I was a completely green photographer. I had a Volvo 850, which I bought for 400 pounds, a camera, and a mission to find out why some people are more successful than others. I wanted to learn from them, and I wanted to become the best of the best. So my partner and I, we invented a reason for the International Festival for Business in Liverpool that we would create a book and an exhibition that would feature the most wealthiest, prominent business leaders from the region. And I'm talking about people like CEOs of Rolls-Royce, Tesco, Lords, millionaires and billionaires. I mean, we were mental even to start thinking about this idea. And bear in mind, we had no connections, no budget, no contacts. People just thought we were idiots. So now, I made sure that hopefully all of you have this book. None of us are Superman. As you can see, we did succeed. We did publish a book. That book doesn't represent me today, who I am, but we did that. And I'm not going to talk about the book, but how we created this project, it's another story. But that book, when we created that, it was first time when I realized that it's not the most talented people get through the door. It's the ones that know how to get noticed. Once I understood that, everything changed. Because people don't really open, and I think it's actually really important, people don't really open doors because of generosity. We open them out. We open the doors because of curiosity, familiarity, and maybe because on the way you made them feel seen. And again, when I understood that, I think everything changed for me. And I stopped waiting to be discovered. I started discovering other people. And then that's when the door started opening. Now, networking. I think networking is misunderstood. Because when we think about networking, we think that networking is a fruit market. But actually it's not. Networking is not a fruit market, it's a seed market. There are thousands of events in the world. And there are thousands of people that go to those events. But only a few people will leave those events with what we came for. Why? I was at a WHO conference in New York because I needed access to Barclays CEO, who was one of the speakers. I will get back to that story later. But during a break, I went networking, obviously, and I saw a guy somewhere lost in the corner, and perhaps I felt sorry for him, so I went to speak to him. I found out that he lost his job, and he was looking for a new job in finances. Obviously, Yahoo conference is the best place to find a job. I mean, like, not a job, but at least some connections to make. But he didn't know how to do it. He actually stood there, and he was waiting to be discovered instead of going and actually meeting all the people around. Let's step in his shoes. So, here's what I do when it comes to the events. There are two types of events. Conferences, so events like this, when you have speakers, conferences, when you have stages where people speak. Then you have events like colleagues parties, networking events, some nights out, whatever, different types of events where you don't really have a stage where people speak. So when I go to an event, my first rule is I always come first. I like being before everyone. I like watching who is coming to those events. Then I identify people. I identify people. So most of the time, more likely, I'm always looking for more senior people. Not senior, sorry, for slightly older people. Just because I think that we perhaps will be in more senior position. But when I also look for people who look slightly interesting, who wears maybe like some interesting outfit or has some glasses or whatever, because that makes me feel less awkward to go and speak to them, because I can go to them and compliment them on something, because we all feel awkward during those events when we need to speak to each other. But something I always find that you can just go to anyone and speak to them, complimenting them. And people obviously love compliments and feeling seen. Other thing, I think it's also very important. Think about some unexpected questions. Don't go and don't say, what do you do? Because I think sometimes when you meet people and your first question is, so what do you do? People actually put that kind of, we put the wall. Suddenly we start thinking, like, it's like psychological. We start thinking, perhaps they want something from me, and if I'm not going to say that I'm doing this and that, so think about some interesting questions. For example, my question is, what makes you happy? And I think that is quite unexpected for people, because it's not like I don't care what you do, but I'm quite interested in you. I want to understand what makes you happy in life. And that opens a different conversation. Then you don't have to worry about talking about the work and feeling like you need to impress somebody. Because then you can just be a human. And again, never sell yourself. People love talking about themselves. Like, seriously, just listen to them. Just keep asking questions. Listen to them. And they will talk and talk and talk. Because at the end of the day, they will remember you because how you made them feel. And obviously at the end, for whatever reason you came to those networking events or whatever event you came, always ask for a contact, email address. Again, there will be people that will never be able, like, they will never want to give you an email, but be awkward with them. Get that email. Don't go for the LinkedIn connection, because LinkedIn does not always work. So always email. And obviously, one more important thing to say, don't underestimate. I think this is one of the biggest things we always do in life. We meet people and we think, I'll just give you myself as an example. I go to places and suddenly people ask me, what do you do? I say I'm a photographer. And suddenly we have already that stigma about photographers, that I do perhaps this and that and that. And so they suddenly not interested in me because we don't really see how I could be useful to them. But the funny thing is, with people, we don't really know who knows whom, and this is how it works, because I might actually have all the keys to the doors that you need to open, but I will not give you that key unless I will like you, unless you will make me feel somehow good. And this is how connection works. And obviously, do follow up next day. I will come back on that as well. Right. Intro is your queen. This is the best thing that can happen. And I think intros, sorry, I've actually delete. I'll just add one more thing. So a different type of events. So events that are like this, with stages, conferences. Again, my personal experiences, I always choose the first row, always. Just because, especially if I want to get a speaker, and for if you go to conferences, whatever, if you want to get that speaker noticed you, wear something bright, do look slightly different, whatever, but sit in that front seat. And always, always, always do research about the people you're actually going to see, because then again, maybe they will not be relevant to you directly, but maybe their clients will be relevant to you. Maybe there's somebody who worked in the past. And if you make this connection, and then again, if he like you, voila, another door opened. So intros. I think with intros, intro, it's like a social approval. It's not anymore a PDF file that you need to send to somebody and prove yourself and talk about yourself and convince those people that you are good enough for them to listen to you. But when somebody does an intro, they feel like we have to somehow at least meet you. So whatever you do, intros are your queens. Now, am I this cheap? This actually changed the way I am networking, if I can say, or or at least like this is the best thing I've ever received, like the best tip I ever received about connections in general. So again, I was in New York. I met this founder of New York Fashion Week, and she just retired. And obviously, you can only imagine how many contacts she has in fashion world. So everyone wants a piece of her. And she started getting all those emails about people inviting her to go for a coffee or for a drink. And then she said, am I this cheap? You know, why nobody actually invites me for lunch or dinner? And again, this is when it clicked. Back then, when I was in New York for 1 month, I tried to make as many connections as possible by myself. And I sent perhaps about 100 of emails to agents and creative agencies. And then I actually asked them to take for lunch. Then I asked them if I can take them for lunch. I have to say about 60% replied. And like half of them replied saying, I don't have time for lunch, but I can grab coffee with you. Thank God back then I would be bankrupted, especially in New York. So yes, always, if possible, ask them for lunch because this is seriously, people take you more seriously. Okay, I think this is planned before you, hungry. Networking, it's not a job. You need to make networking work for you. It does take time. It does not happen in 1 year. It takes maybe 5 years, 7 years. But when all the dots that you put somewhere around the globe, around London, around UK, around whatever you will be, wherever you will go, all those dots, at some point in your life, we will start connecting. And again, for example, last week I did a photo shoot for Forbes Australia, and I photographed 30 under 30. So I have nothing to do with Australia, but how it happened. Australians team from Forbes got in touch with their networks in UK, in their case with independent media, and perhaps we asked for somebody that they would actually recommend for them to shoot. And the independent recommended me. And they got in touch with me, and then I did this photo shoot and so on. But it was just, I'm sharing that just to actually show this kind of how that networking works, how those dots connect at the end. Because once you actually build your reputation for networking, you don't need to be in the room anymore. People talk about you, people recommend you, people trust you if you do a good job, and then they actually, networks start working for you. Go to the wrong room. Right, again, I think as creatives, you think that you always have to go to some kind of creative events, which is, it's great to go and meet your peers and all of that. But actually, to create a network, it's amazing to go to places that you don't even think, like trades, tech, data, medicine, whatever those events are, sports. So again, 5 years ago, one of the goals I wanted to meet Barack Obama. I just wanted to meet this guy because I love him, and I really wanted to photograph him. So I went to New York, 0 connections, nobody. And, you know, if you want to meet a politician, perhaps you would go to some politicians' event, so to speak. But instead, I went to so many random events. And on my second day, I went to an event and I met a woman who used to be the manager of his campaigning. I mean, it was mind-blowing. I stood there in New York by myself, and then I'm meeting this person who says, I told her the story about Barack Obama, and she said, we should connect, right? And then, obviously, when she told me all that story, the rest is the history. But go to those wrong rooms, because unexpected connections will always bring something unexpected to you. And my last slide, it's abundantly fair. Because some people might think and might say like, oh, it's easy for you to say because maybe you're an extrovert or you love people and this and that. Trust me. Then actually, when I started networking, I cannot tell you, I felt sick in my stomach. I used to have diarrhea before those events. And I mean, like, it's true. My ears used to burn. My face was used to be red. And also because I was so scared speaking in English, because I was so scared people wouldn't understand me, and they would just think that immigrant just wants a job or whatever. But I had so much fear in me. And then the more I did, the more I went, the more I spoke, the more I got out of my comfort zone, I actually became somebody who enjoys going into the room and just sees all those people and I just think like this. These are like incredible people, and you can connect with them, and they will do amazing things for you, and you for them, and so on and so on and so on. So just finishing on the story about the CEO of Barclays. Again, it was mega scary experience. So this conference, again, I was invited as through the connections as one of the VIPs, and we didn't really have many VIPs in the Yahoo conference. And it was like one line, maybe 10 people sitting, yes? The stage was slightly bigger. We had very big, we had live television and everything, and I was sat in the front. And I knew that I needed to get a contact from Barclays CEO because I needed him for some other project. That was my mission. Now, Yahoo conference, it's not something you will go in and out. It's quite difficult to get in general. It's like White House because we have all the elite from finance. So the building is very secured. And anyway, long story short, people, even you are sitting in the front, you can't really get to speak to people on the stage because we have a backstage door. And we don't really come on the floor to network with you. So I had to be creative and figure it out. So how I would get this person to notice me. And I sat there, and his time came, and he came on stage. I sat basically like yourself sitting there. And I was thinking like, obviously I need to hear his talk because he needs to see that I'm listening to him and I'm kind of interested in what he has to say. But at the same time, I kept thinking, oh my God, I need to get him. But it's impossible. And by the way, before actually he came on stage, I went outside and I walked around the building and I checked where potentially people from the stage can enter. And I found that it was full of bodyguards and full of those beautiful, expensive cars. Security guys weren't very happy with me because, like I said, the building was so secure and you always have to go through them and they have to check you fully and so on. Anyway, so I sat there, time is ticking, and I'm thinking, God, what should I do? Should I just write a message to tell him that I need to speak to him? But then a live camera is behind me. And I'm thinking, but no, I cannot do that because the person who invited me to this event, I mean, I will embarrass them and I don't want to embarrass them because also you don't want to break that trust. Anyway, 5 minutes before he ended his talk, I actually left the place and I went to the backstage outside. Security guys, again, they weren't very happy with me going another time. And I stood there and the bodyguards came to me because obviously it's kind of protecting place. And we said, basically they asked me like, what did I want and all of that. And I had to make a story. I actually had this book, again, I'm coming back to this book. I had this book and I said, look, I have this book. The guy, the Barclays CEO, actually, he has some friends here. And I just wanted to give him as a gift. And they were, okay, fine. Anyway, the guy came. I don't even remember how I jumped there. I just said whatever I said. I think he was so in shock in general. And he was like, yes, take my card, keep in touch. That's it. So the rest is the history. Thank you so much for listening.